across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome to the show. Good evening. I mean, not much going on, so it's probably be quite quiet tonight, as you can imagine. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock after an extraordinary night. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of breaking news, challenging views and dazzling debate. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000. It is Friday, May the 3rd. Here is what's coming up. A political earthquake as Reform UK storm to sensational triumph all over the country. We'll analyse the reasons for the government's unmitigated disaster and ask who came out of these seismic elections worse, Two-Tier Keir or Calamity Kemi. Who's your biggest loser? 0344 499 1000. Why did Labour take such a phenomenal kicking? Was it the migrant crisis after a catastrophic week in which an astonishing 1,662 illegal foreigners poured across the Channel? Yet more. This invasion now, with this good weather, is off the scale. An influx that will cost. This week's influx alone, since Sunday, listen to this, this is how much it's going to cost us over the next year. 1,662 illegal foreigners will cost us £70 million. Not to mention the 100,000 or so who are dotted all over the country. The money this is costing this nation and us, the taxpayers, the long-suffering taxpayers, is an absolute scandal. And what the hell is Keir Starmer doing about it? Wittering on about smashing the gang, smashing the gang. Shut up, you fool. That's not working, and it never would. You haven't smashed a single gang. You've got to do something. I think that's a major reason why Labour fared so terribly in the local elections and, of course, in that extraordinary, sensational defeat in Runcorn. That was, of course, a parliamentary by-election. Pete Barnes, political strategist, is with me at the moment. I put out a tweet today saying, I understand that Keir Starmer has been in touch with all of his MPs and urged them not to beat the crap out of their constituents because they can't stand another by-election like Runcorn. But what other reasons could there be? I mean, is it crazy Ed Miliband's net zero lunacy that has landed Brits with the highest energy prices in the entire world, 5 times higher than in America? The list goes on. Axing the winter fuel allowance, cancelling the grooming gang inquiry, the farmers' inheritance tax, and so many more inept policies that the people simply hate. I mean, I get it. Sometimes governments have to do things that are unpopular. But my God, the arrogance of this government that don't seem to have cared a jot what the people of this country think about what they've been doing. And overnight today and overnight, they are paying a heavy price for this. Your thoughts, 0344 499 1000. We'll take a look at the stunned lefty media response as the BBC, ITV, Channel 4 and the awful Sky News reel back in dinosauric dismay. The times are changing, but the metropolitan elite political hacks don't seem to like it and barely seem to have noticed. 0344 499 1000. This was the people's vote and they voted against the sclerotic past. Is this the dawn of a new political age? 0344 499 1000. In other news, I mean, Harry has to crop up, doesn't he? As if we didn't have enough on our plate. Prince Harry has lost his legal battle to get armed police protection on his visits to Britain. He's lost yet again. So he lost the case, then he appealed. With his appeal, the judge said, Harry, mate, and we didn't actually use that language. He said, listen, Harry, take a tip. Drop this case because it's just, you're wasting money. You will never, ever win it. Harry, of course, he knows better. He appealed again. he's lost again. He seems to have finally accepted that this long, drawn-out, ludicrous, forlorn, doomed-to-fail legal saga has now ended. But in response to his humiliating courtroom defeat, the whining Duke of Sussex has given a stupefying me interview to the BBC, revealing his dad, the king, no longer talks to him. I mean, can you blame him? And demanding that the Prime Minister intervenes to overrule the decision of the court. Harry, mate, take a tip. Just shut up and stop behaving like a spoilt brat who didn't get his way. Kinsey Schofield joins me later in this hour to discuss your thoughts, though. 0344 499 1000. We'll also go across the Atlantic to have a word with our friend Greg Swenson about the Trump effect, which I think played something of a part in these remarkable events over the last 24 hours. A changing of the tectonic political plates here in Britain. Just how much was it down to what has already happened in America, and how much many people in Britain admire what Trump's doing? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday night together. And as I already said, with me for, he's my Friday friend, and he'll be with me for, till 9 o'clock. Pete Barnes, political strategist. Welcome, Pete.
Hi, Kev. How's it going?
Not much to talk about.
No, pretty quiet night, really, isn't it? Yeah, I haven't been to bed since I don't know what day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have to admit, I am poring over statistics and I'm poring over all these numbers. And you are right. This has been a monumental day for reform. Everybody knows I'm a bit of a reform critic, just a tad.
Yeah.
But this, you cannot...
Not your day.
Yeah, not my day. But I do think there is some big glaring points that reform can use.
Let's get down to you. We'll get to your down view in a minute.
No, I've got everybody under the thumb on this one.
Well, look, let's talk first of all then about the main parties. I mean, Kemi's response. We'll talk about this in just a little while. I just think she's got to starts treating reform with a bit more respect. She said it was a good night for the protest parties. Well, she carried the way these elections went. She's the protest party. She's the periphery party. Reform are now bigger than the Tories. And of course, Keir Starmer sort of talked about, our lessons will be learnt and all that kind of crap. But let's have a listen to our heroes, the leaders of Labour and the Tories. Let's do Starmer first. His response to that sensational loss in the constituency. This was the parliamentary election. A lot of eyes on that. And my God, it was close. I mean, I was told...
I'd have loved to have been there. As my inner political nerd would have loved it.
I'll tell you one thing. I would imagine the turnout must have been quite low.
46%. It was 10% higher than predicted.
Well, there you go.
So, that is the most important thing about that.
That's
actually, I'll get to it. But
I'll tell you what I find interesting about that, because of a majority of 6, that's usually a third recount, isn't it?
Yeah. So there was a rumour they were going to go to even a 4th, if not a 5th. And it would have been the closest one in about 100 years, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Well, the previous
historic win.
The previous smallest margin of victory in a parliamentary by-election was 57.
Yeah.
So it's now 6, but those 6 votes are going to be so significant going forward. Yeah. And I would imagine, Keir Starmer, we know you're a lousy politician, but we didn't know you were this bad. You should have visited Runcorn, and maybe that's 6 votes. I'll tell you, I know for a fact there are a lot of Labour people walking around going, that idiot, why didn't he go there?
Yeah.
Why didn't he go there?
Well, there's also, sometimes there's a lot of Labour voters saying, thank God he didn't go.
I get that.
It works on both ways,
I know that. I understand that, but I do think, no matter how unpopular prime ministers are, there's an aura about them, and it does change the dial when they go somewhere.
It really does.
So I'll tell you, he should have gone. Well, look, let's have a look at their various responses. First of all, this is Keir Starmer responding to the loss of Runcorn and Helsby.
My response is to say, I get it. We were elected into government at the general election last year to deliver change. We've started that work. Waiting lists are coming down, wages are going up, interest rates are down. That's all good for working people. But the message I take out of these results is that we need to go further and faster with change. People need to see and feel that change. That chimes with what I've been saying for a number of weeks. We're going to double down on that now, deliver the change that people need.
Well, he's certainly got the change. Not quite sure it was the change he had in mind. Now, let's have a look at Kemi. Now, I think she spoke out, one of the few bright lights for the Tories over the last day or so has been in Cambridge, where Cambridgeshire, where it's Mike Brearley, was it?
Paul Bristow.
Paul Bristow. Mike Brearley is a cricketer, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Very intelligent man, by the way. They're going to be a good... Paul Briscoe, he won the mayoral election there. So this was... Kemi went up there, in fairness, and this was her response.
But we can't take things for granted. Protest parties are doing well today. I know that. It is disappointing. And I have a message for all of those Conservative councillors who lost their seats, how sincerely sorry I am for your loss, because I know how hard you worked. But we are going to win those seats back. That is my job now. We're going to make sure that your hard work was not in vain. Conservative councils did deliver better services for lower taxes across the board. Other parties may be winning now, but we are going to show, as with Paul here in Cambridgeshire, that we can deliver and that we are on course and recovering.
I think she should drop that protest party line.
Yeah,
it's silly. It's silly, and you know,
it looks childish in a way.
Exactly right. Now, you know, respect to your allegiance and all that, but it is today, and respect to your opposition to the Reform Party. But today, this is the day that you guys have to start taking Nigel Farage and his party a little bit more seriously.
A little bit more serious.
Don't call them
I've never gone into
That's
any of
a mistake.
I really hate it when they say the opposition. Just say who it is. You're treating the electorate like they're like idiot, like they're
She's got
idiots.
to drop that rhetoric.
She's got to drop that. That I completely agree with. Yeah. Particularly like after these results, you can't play the games like that anymore. You shouldn't have played them in the first place. What I will say is the Conservatives cannot have a freak-out reaction and jump to Robert Jenrick. We have to be real. The Reform vote is gone. It's gone.
Never mind that. I think Robert Jenrick might be jumping somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true. But then to be like, but then on the Reform side of it, on that issue, I would be very careful about opening the floodgates to former Tories. You know, about letting pretty much anybody in, because don't forget,
I think a lot of them are thinking this.
Yeah, but they've also got candidates who believe in net zero. They've got candidates who believe in a little more open bordery stuff, like potentially running. So they do have a mixed bag, and I don't know how the base is going to feel about just it being the new Conservatives, which, you know, online that's not playing well already. But like you said, this is a monumental day for Reform. It's a brilliant day for Nigel Farage. I take nothing away from this win. The Runcorn election must have been an incredible moment to be at. I mean, to overturn that is monumental. There's no other word for it. You know, like I said, I'd have loved to have been there, but I do think there are certain questions that Reform have to answer now, and that's because they are responsible for something. They're now responsible for people's livelihoods, schools and services. They now have to actually deliver.
How many councils did they get?
Off the top of my head,
I'm looking up...
six, seven, I think, so far. I've got it written down in about the plethora of notes.
You're absolutely right.
But that's the big thing they've got now. They now have to deliver.
I mean, they've been shouting from the wing.
Yeah.
It's easy to throw grenades from the sidelines.
Yeah.
Now they've got to do, in these councils that they now run, that they control, they will be governed on their ability to govern.
Yeah.
And
it's not just the councils, it's people like Andrea Leadsom as well. She's got a £24 million budget.
You mean
Andrea Jenkins. Sorry, I've got the names mixed up. I've been doing that literally.
7 councils.
It was 7, perfect. And, you know, like, say, Durham, for example, is 45 million in debt. You know, Kent has a massive special educational needs problem. These are big issues that now the Reform are going to be responsible for. And if they don't deliver, this is a very easy attack line for both the Labour Party and the Conservatives to take them out of the next general election. Say, look, they can't even run a council. How can they run a government? That is the line. I'm just saying.
They haven't started yet.
But if they get it wrong, the pressure is now on.
Of course.
But, I hope they can step up to the plate. I genuinely do, for the people that have voted them in, which I will say is not that many people.
Yeah, well,
Not
tell
realistically.
that to Keir Starmer. Right,
Well-
let's have a listen to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage came on the Mike Graham show this morning in something of an ebullient mood, as you can imagine. Here he is.
The Runcorn victory, it may on paper look like a small margin, but it's a huge win.
Yeah.
I mean, we've won something here in a safe, historic Labour seat, one of their safest seats in the country. And also, if you look at the results in Doncaster, North Tyneside that have come through already, you'll see 25, 26% swings from Labour to Reform. But at the same time, go to Lincolnshire, traditional, safe, solid blue Conservative county, and Andrea Jenkins has won that by a country mile. The message from the night is that we are now the opposition party in England, indeed the UK, to Labour. And actually, it was Conservative votes that stopped us winning even more. They were the ones splitting our vote, and that's the big change.
There's Farage. I think that, let's see going forward how well Reform and Farage do. But their narrative today, they seem to be in such a buoyant mood.
I think that is a huge mistake.
That they're not that keen. But they're always politicians. If you ask any of them, how do you think about some kind of union with the other guys? No way. No,
yeah.
And then the last moment they usually do it. So.
Good. What I was going to say was, I actually think how Reform have handled today was a huge mistake. I actually
Here
think...
we go.
The way I would have advised them to do...
They just said, thank you, we did well.
No, they should have said we couldn't do better. Because the reality is, when you look at the numbers...
Look
at the numbers. 32%. That is less than a percentage that Keir Starmer won. They have no mandate. It is a mandate question.
It's not a
the same people who say Keir Starmer doesn't have a mandate have a less mandate than he does.
That's not a huge mistake, is it?
It is. It is a massive mistake.
You think that there are people all over the country, in the pubs and everything, going, I'll tell you what, Reform have made a huge mistake.
No. But I tell you who it does affect, the people that didn't bother to turn out, which is the majority of people. Let's be real. 30% turnout is hardly anything to shout home about. 3 men and a whippet is not a revolution. And that's the reality here. The people who ran around saying Keir Starmer doesn't have a mandate have less of a mandate than he does. Yeah, well, that's the reality of it.
By the way, we're going to have a go at the media, the legacy media, as Alex Phillips calls them, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Sky News, who are still pursuing some kind of ancient kind of agenda about, Nigel Farage is a racist and they're all far-right extremists and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to have a go at the rest of the media, and this is me. I didn't even get the day right. My monologue. I don't know what day it is. I said, it's Friday, May the 3rd. Well, apologies for that. It's Friday, May the 2nd, so at least I'm correct my mistake.
I've been awake for a long time. That didn't help me.
It could be Friday, May the 3rd, but, it's not. It's Friday, May the 2nd. Apologies for that. Listen, let's go to break. When we come back, more of this, and we'll try to analyse some of the reasons that Labour, the government, have done so badly, and perhaps the Tories as well. But I think you'll agree with me. Your lot did have a terrible, terrible night, but I agree with you. You told me off air that actually the really big losers are Labour. Labour are the ones who had the worst of this. We'll talk about all of that after these messages.
You can't claim to be the party of low tax when the Conservative government put up taxes higher than they'd ever been since the Second World War. And you can't claim to be the party
Well, we
of
did out of
controlling...
necessity.
Well,
Look,
but the fact is you did it. It doesn't matter. The
well,
point
no,
is,
I think this is key because, well, I know we had to do it because we spent £400 billion on the pandemic.
Yeah, but you can't claim to be...
As soon as we could start reducing taxes, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, no, I get that. But Nigel, you can't claim to be the party of lower taxes if you're putting them up to the highest level they've ever been at.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, let's talk about some of the reasons for what's happened. And by the way, let's also address what you were saying as well, which I think is interesting. Yes, of course, you accept the Tories didn't exactly have a triumphant night. They had a very bad night. But then they've got a lot of building to do, rebuilding. But you believe, and I agree with you, that if you have to choose between the two, Labour had by far the worst night. And the reason I think they had a worse night is they're being judged on what they've done since July the 5th when they came into power. This was this catastrophe for them. This mass-scale rejection by the people was down to the fact that Labour have imposed on the people phenomenally unpopular policies. I mean, you know, when they cut the winter fuel allowance, it was almost as if they didn't want to get any votes.
Yeah, it really was.
Tell us, Pete, why you think Labour had the worst of it, why they are worse off today than the Tories.
Well, like you said, obviously, I do think you're right that it is about kind of judging the government on its record, which is a very, very bad place for a government to be so early on in its kind of in its tenure. And yeah, the two that have been coming up the most in terms of all the polling that I've seen have been the winter fuel allowance and disability benefits cuts. And it's particularly because these are human stories. And I said this right at the beginning. It's not the farmers one. It is the winter fuelers, because it's old ladies and their mums and dads and grandmas and grandpas sitting in really cold rooms because they can't afford to turn on the heating. That image has resonated very strongly with their own side, who see it as a betrayal of the very foundational principle of the Labour Party to help the most in need. That is what they've seen it. You know, this kind of this sense of betrayal that is really powerful. You know, you see it in the people who've shifted to Reform. They were saying they don't recognise the party. They don't believe it's the party they used to vote for, in the same way that many of the Conservatives who have switched to Reform say the same thing. But there is also the fact that when you actually look at this from a numbers position, the Conservatives were defending over 1,000 seats. Labour only about 300, and they have lost pretty much all of them. And the Labour Conservatives have lost. It's looking round about 67 to 74% is what we're predicting, but it might be more than that. But so that means that, you know, the amount that they've had to kind of defend is bigger. But the one thing that nobody will talk about just yet is how much money the parties have spent on this. The Tories didn't spend very much money. The Tories have accepted that this was always going to to happen.
They haven't got very much money.
So there's always that point, but it's always along the lines that they have. So they put a lot of money into the Cambridgeshire election. They didn't really put it into places where they knew that they weren't going to win. They've been rather strategic with it. The Labour Party threw a lot of money at this, as did Reform, but I think they were right to do that. But it is the fact that, you know, the Labour Party have come off worse because this is things that they have done.
I agree.
And I think the Conservative Party they're still reeling from a very angry electorate.
There are concrete reasons why people hate Labour.
You can point to it.
With the sort of hatred of the Tories is getting more historical. I mean, I hate the Tories for that 14 years of betrayal, but, you know, it's a year ago. But, you know, what they say, a week is a long term in politics. You know, we've now got, 10 months since Labour came in. That's a kind of almost an era in politics. So that is why I agree with you that Labour have done worse. Let's analyse... oh, by the way, see, it's the imperious way, socialists are particularly like this, the imperious way that this government, this Labour lot, who are useless, have just arrogantly assumed we can impose these policies on people, and they'll just chew it up. They'll have to take it. So Keir Starmer said today, I get it, I understand. You know,
no, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. And he said, but I'm afraid that Labour will have to continue making the tough decisions. And what he means by tough decisions is this. He means decisions that his woke lefty MPs and his communist cabinet pals love, but the people hate.
Yeah.
That's what he means by tough decisions. It's decisions that ideologues in the cabinet, these left-wing ideologues, love. Like, they hate old people, left-wingers, they really do. They just think they're a waste of money. Hence, and old people don't vote Labour.
Yeah.
So that's why they got rid of the winter fuel allowance. So it is this sort of an inward-looking belief in themselves and not caring about what the people think. That's what they mean by tough decisions. Tough decisions, decisions that they love, that these lefty as opposed to what the actual people want. So they love all this and the people don't.
Yeah, but it's also the fact that the way that the Labour Party will think about it is, oh, everybody who voted Reform is a racist. I don't have to care about their opinion.
Exactly
that is the bit. It is the way that they will box this off and say, oh, it's just the racists. You know, this was the Brexit vote. However, the one thing I will say that Reform do have to rather get a grip of is they need to start winning in Remain places. The way they've been very, very successful have been Brexit heartland areas. They've not really made the dent into Reform and into Remain areas just yet. And I think that is the next step that we'll see from them. And whether they've got to hold the base to kind of soften the positions, we'll see. But that is where they're going. But you're bang on when you come to Keir Starmer. He doesn't get it. And more importantly, he doesn't care that people don't like these policies because he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, but
he's not listening.
He's also, like all of them in the cabinet, they're more interested in pleasing themselves
100%.
than the people. And they don't care about what the people think. And so they are paying a seriously heavy price for that introspection, if you like.
It will be interesting to see whether the backbenchers develop a backbone, and whether we'll start to see.
Have you seen some of them today?
There was also some just before the elections that were coming out against some of the net zero stuff, and they're starting to pick up on the kind of the electric cars bans and all that kind of stuff. You know, they're starting to see a little bit of a pushback from some of the committee chairmen and things like that. So the groundwork is being laid to really hold this government to account by its own people, but I'm not holding out much hope.
Right, very, very quickly, let's go through what I think are the main reasons. We need to get onto some other issues in a second. The migrant crisis. More than 11,000 illegal cross-channel migrants so far this year, and rising fast. Nearly 1,700 this week, 1,500 so far this week. I think it's nearly 1,700. Another nearly 300 came across today. One day I think we had about 450. Every single day this week since Sunday, hundreds of them coming over. Nearly 2,000 in a week. No deterrence. Ludicrous nonsense about smashing the gangs. No gangs smashed. And ridiculous decisions by these immigration judges allowing jailed foreign criminals to stay, and an asylum seeker bill costing billions and billions of pounds. People have had enough of this. Other reasons: Crazy Ed's net zero claptrap.
I think that's a big one.
Costing us the highest energy bills in the world, wrecking industry and destroying the British economy. Plus the woke garbage that these Labourites, particularly the cabinet, particularly people like Bridget Phillipson and Angela Rayner, tend to gather around, the trans stuff, DEI. It's a million miles away from what normal people, ordinary people, are concerned about. These are, I think, the reasons why Labour has taken such a drubbing.
Yeah, I also think it's the fact that it always seems to be money is going abroad and not to the people here. I think that is a big factor for a lot of Reform voters.
Yeah, very good
and I do think this is one of the things that a lot lot of Labour voters. They're seeing their kind of communities torn apart, and they don't like it. And the Labour Party don't seem to be doing anything about it other than exacerbating the problem. And I think that's where they feel that, like I said, that sense of betrayal from their own side.
It comes back to what I was saying, though, Pete. It's that they don't really care about the migrant crisis. And they can't really get it through their heads that the people in this country really do. And as you implied just a little earlier, they sort of think that anybody who's worried about the migrant crisis is some kind of racist.
When it was the Southport attack, I'd love to know how many of the Cabinet could have pointed to Southport on a map before it happened.
And that's, by the way, that's another reason.
I do think
Southport didn't do Labour any favours at all. Keir Starmer, two-tier justice, two-tier lying to us about the nature of the suspect, etc., etc. So basically, I think we can summarise why Keir Starmer has taken such a battering today in one simple sentence. He hasn't really put a single foot right since last July the 5th, has he?
No, not a single. No, I cannot think of a single marker or a single policy or anything that has got it right. And I think that rather says it all in 10 months. Well,
let me ask the audience, everybody, give us a call. Why do you think Labour took such a drubbing today? Why did they lose Runcorn? Why have they lost all these seats? Why has it been such a disaster for them? This was clearly the verdict of the people on the Labour government so far. What do you think are the main reasons that people are so down on Keir Starmer and his horrible, gormless government? Let me sort of leading question
Just
there,
a little
isn't
bit,
it?
And
also, let me know what you think about the Tories. I mean, it hasn't been a good day for the Tories either. Is Kemi Badenoch the leader to take them forward? A lot of people saying, this might be her death knell. I don't know. Let me know. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the media. We're talking about the BBC. We're talking about ITV, Channel 4, Sky News, all these kind of metropolitan elite left-wing kind of political journalists who are part of our sclerotic political system. I don't think they spotted the change coming. I certainly don't think they like change. And frankly, some of their behaviour since it became clear that this was going to be Reforms Day, they detest reform. They really detest reform. Since it became clear that this was going to be a triumph for reform, some of their behaviour has been disgraceful, and we'll give you two egregious examples after this break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to talk about the media's response to the seismic events of the last 24 hours. You know, we have seen a kind of political earthquake. No longer can Reform UK be seen as outriders, you know, sniping from the wings, sniping from the outside. You know, they are now a major party and they've got to be taken very, very seriously. So the media have always hated Reform UK. You know, as soon as they're off camera, they're always talking about Nigel and his people being racists and all this kind of stuff. You know, they can't quite get it through their head that to be right-wing, it doesn't mean you're far right. So as far as most of our media, television, political hacks are concerned, you know, if you vote Conservative or Reform, you are far right. You're an extremist. If you're actually in the party, you're probably a racist. If you're worried about the migrant crisis, you're definitely a racist. This is their attitude. The times they are a-changing, as Bob Dylan said, and I don't think that this lot have really noticed. Today they've had their wake-up call, and they are dismayed and shocked. There's no doubt about that. Now, I'm going to give you two examples of what I think is just disgraceful. First of all, Andrea Jenkins, Dame Andrea Jenkins, lovely lady, friend of this show, often comes on. I send her my congratulations and a lovely note back. She's a nice lady and I think she speaks human. Former Tory, of course. Yeah. She speaks human. She's like a normal person. So many politicians aren't. She, after her triumph in the mayoral election in Lincolnshire, she won by a landslide, so congratulations. 42%. Yeah, congratulations to Andrea. She was interviewed. She's doing a round of media interviews in the counting hall, and this was her interview with Sky News.
I spoke to the Tory candidate. He left when you said migrants should be put in tents. That's good enough for France. That should be good enough for them too. Do you think that's a divisive way of conducting politics?
I think it's what the majority and the silent majority think.
That's what you think of migrants, that's where they should...
And, well, illegal migrants, people come here illegally, they should be put in tents like they do in France.
And people are seeking asylum should also be put in tents?
Well, I think genuine asylum seekers, you know, like Ukraine, etc., that's a different matter.
And then you also accused one candidate of... She said you were parachuted in, yes, and you made a comment about her South African accent. What did you mean by that?
Well, what I meant is, how can they say I've been parachuted in when I spent most of my life in Lincolnshire school?
Why mention the accent? Sorry.
Because the irony of saying someone's been parachuted in who's not even from the country. I mean, I went to school, college, university, so I think...
So someone who's got an accent can't be from this county?
I think, actually, I'm not even going to answer any more of your questions. I think that your questioning is quite divisive. You're looking into things when it was a little play with words, it was a little joke because of the irony. Do you not understand irony?
The only reason I'm asking is because Reform get a reputation for these divisive politics.
Questions. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, do you know what that is? That's the BBC technique. Yeah. These ridiculous people who think that if a politician goes before them, that somehow or other they're on trial. They quiz them like they're criminals. So you'll get someone talking about an issue today, and some idiot from the BBC will go, "Did you not 17 years ago say that you know, coloured black people? Did you call them coloured or something like that? You know, mistakes they may have made in the past, as if you know that they're on trial."
Yeah, I think you're right there, but I will say that I do think that Dame Andrea's comment was a little bit silly, and she played into their hands. The thing that has annoyed me is sometimes...
Well, she said it. She didn't say it.
Yeah, you gifted the line. You gifted the line to people that don't like you.
Yeah, but that was years ago.
No, but that
was years ago.
Yes, but what she should have had is a better response. Saying I was wrong to say it. What I should have said is with the why didn't you?
It's a good idea.
No. I don't think it was, because now we're talking about.
She said.
We're now talking about Andrea's victory in terms of the comment, not her victory. say.
What Andrea said. Well, what's she supposed to do? Was she walked away in the end?
No, but what you do is you say, look, I was wrong to say
no,
that.
No, no,
I should have
we're
said.
not talking about Andrea.
Yeah.
We're talking about that idiot reporter.
Yeah. She was always going to ask that
Andrea's the
question.
innocent victim there. And Andrea said, why don't we put migrants into tents like the French do?
That bit of the answer was perfect.
Well, she said that years ago.
Yes. But the response that she gave then
well, her
was
response
perfect.
was that most people would agree with her. And I think
that was
she's
the perfect.
Right.
The one that she got wrong was the accent point. She shouldn't have made that comment, but she should have acknowledged it and said, what I should have said is maybe maybe we should have talked about jobs. Maybe we should have talked about the issues rather than talking about people's personal accents and all the rest of it. What you do then is you take the attack out at the knees. That's the point. I think we could now talk about Andrea's
what she's talking about
victory.
is that one of her rivals was parachuted in and wasn't even from Britain, was a South African, and she made some comment about
that plays into the media's narrative that Reform don't like foreigners. What she did is there, but what she could have done is cut that out right there and then, because the problem now is we're talking about Andrea's comment, not Andrea's amazing victory. This is the point.
Well, we are. Well, no, but I'm having a go at Sky.
Yeah,
You're missing the point of this discussion.
No, I'm not. I get.
Well,
I understand.
You really are.
No, I 100% see the point you're making. But my point is, Reform have to get used to the fact that they're always going to be attacked like that.
Well, that reporter,
and
that Sky News reporter can go to hell.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not right, but that's how that's how they're going to have to face this stuff.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that what that betrayed was the way these metropolitan elite political hacks all go round in this kind of amoeba-like mob. You know, they're all comparing notes all the time. What we're going to ask them, what we're going to say. You know, do you remember during the COVID crisis, their only question was, why aren't we locking down longer? They are so establishment, it's beyond
the worst one
belief.
Was they talked about her working in Greggs. The kind
well,
of
no, we're going to go on to that.
That's
So that's Sky News, and I just think that's entirely wrong. And by the way, why don't you tell me, folks, what you think? When Andrea said, why is it that when migrants get to France, they get a tent if they're lucky? They only get a tent, and when they get here, we put them in 4-star hotels, or give them houses, and we give them 50 quid a week, and we give them free lawyers, free dentists, free doctors, free food, and all. Why don't we do the same as the French and give them tents? Let me know, do you agree with Andrea? Because I think she's got a point. 03444991000. It's the pathetic idea on the part of that Sky News reporter that you said migrants should go in tents, that everyone will really go, oh my God, what a terrible thing today. She's trying to frame Andrea as a racist. There you go, Reform racist. Let me know what you think about that. And to move on to the point that you were about to make there, just very, very quickly, the BBC, and guess what, they pulled this down. They tweeted, Reform UK's Andrea Jenkins is the new mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, making a return to politics for the former Greggs worker and Miss UK finalist. Disgusting snobbery and disgusting sexism.
Yeah,
how dare you?
It shows the most prevalent level of bigotry in this country, the bigotry of low expectations. They look down on people like Andrea Jenkins. They look down on people.
She's a university graduate.
She's a former cabinet minister.
Exactly.
Like that's the moniker.
What's wrong with being a Greggs worker?
Yeah,
and what's wrong with being a Miss UK finalist?
Yeah. Do you know, they could phrase it in a way...
Might be better if she won, of course.
Yeah, but no, they could phrase it in a way saying, look, they look at the amazing progression that she's had, but that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not what they're doing.
Because they hate her.
Yes,
because she's in their mind, she's a far-right extremist. Shame on you, the BBC.
You see that right across.
I mean, I put a tweet out saying, the BBC, these pathetically snobbish BBC journalists, shocked that Reform UK's politicians didn't all go to Eton or Roedean and then on to Oxbridge. That's their idea of the world. Anyway, shame on you, BBC. Anyway, I tweeted, a lot of people were down on that like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, like you said, they pulled it.
And guess what? Shamed-faced BBC had to pull it down. Disgusting, disgusting. We're going to go to break now, and when we come back, I'm afraid we're going to have to move on to Prince Harry. Oh my God! So he's lost this court case. His armed cop guard case, the long-running saga, as he tried to demand police protection, armed police protection, when he came to Britain. He lost the first case. He appealed. The judge said, "Don't appeal again. You're always going." He appealed again. He lost it again today, and he's given a sort of spoilt brat interview to the BBC. You know, complaining about everybody, saying his dad doesn't talk to him. Who would, Harry? And demanding that the Prime Minister steps in and overrules the court's verdict. Good luck with that, and well done for truly understanding the way things work. My God, what kind of planet do you live on? Planet Harry, or more to the point, Planet Meghan. He's allowed a small role, a small place on Planet Meghan.
Cameo.
That next, stay tuned.
You can't claim to be the party of low tax when the Conservative government put up taxes higher than they'd ever been since the Second World War. And you can't claim to be the party
Well, we
of
did out of
controlling...
necessity.
Well,
Look,
but the fact is you did it. It doesn't matter.
I think this is key because, I know we had to do it because we spent £400 billion on the pandemic.
Yeah, but you can't claim to be...
As soon as we could start reducing taxes, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, no, I get that. But Nigel, you can't claim to be the party of lower taxes if you're putting them up to the highest level they've ever been at.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, look, let's go straight over to California because there's more news on the Harry front. As I said before the break, that he's lost the latest round of his long-running legal battle to get armed police protection when he comes to Britain. He's got no right to it. The only people who get armed police protection are the frontline royals, the King, the Queen, Queen Camilla, and Harry. Sorry, not Harry, he doesn't get it. William and Kate. No other royals get it. but he demanded it. And they said, well, you're not a front-line lawyer. You would have got it if you'd have stayed here, but you've buggered off to California, so no. So he's spent millions and millions of pounds saying, I want what my brother gets. Well, the last time he appealed, the judge said, Harry, give this up. Because you are doomed to fail. Oh, no, he went back in, appealed again. Well, now even he has accepted that he's lost that one, and he's given a kind of spoilt brat interview to the BBC, moaning about everything, saying that he's the victim of a classic establishment stitch-up. No, you're not, you little fool. Well, let's go over and talk to royal commentator, our guru on the West Coast, Kinsey Schofield. She doesn't usually work on Fridays, but this is a bit of a special occasion. Kins, good to see you unexpectedly. Well, your thoughts, first of all, on the verdict. First of all, on the verdict, because then we'll play a little bit of this interview he's given.
My thoughts on the verdict are the same conversation you've had over and over. Prince Harry, it's a case-by-case basis. You are given the security that you desire if they deem that that there's a threat to you. It's not Prince Harry no longer has the security. It's give us 28 days notice, and we're going to evaluate what security measures we think we need to take.
But that's what he hates, Kinsey.
He hates having to ask permission.
And also that they will make the decision, he won't. The only reason he pursued this, he kept going on about the safety of his family. The safety of his family shortly before hopping off to Nigeria with Meghan and then off to Colombia.
Or Ukraine.
And then Ukraine. Yeah, I mean, he seems to go to the most dangerous places in the world and thinks that Britain is more dangerous. Ludicrous. The only reason he pursued this case was because William gets armed police protection everywhere he goes, and he wants the same status as his brother. Well, Harry, you gave up that status when you did a moonlight flit to America, when you ran away from your frontline royal duties, so forget it. But he is stuck with this like a dog with a bone, and he would not drop it because he's like that. And he's made a fool of himself. He's lost a hell of a lot of money. And of course, how has he responded? He has given a half-an-hour interview with the BBC's correspondent over in California, Nida Tawfik. Let's have a little look at a quote from it.
I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK, of course I do. And I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show my children my homeland. There is a lot of control and ability in my father's hands. Ultimately, this whole thing could be resolved through him, not necessarily by intervening, but by stepping aside, allowing the experts to do what is necessary and to carry out an RMB. That said, This all was initiated under a previous government. And there is now a new government. I have had it described to me, once people knew about the facts, that this is an good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up.
He's just a spoilt brat, isn't he? And he says that the King doesn't talk to him over this. Well, who can blame the King? He also called on our Prime Minister to intervene and overrule the courts. Well, it just doesn't go like that, Harry. He's a little kid who didn't get what he wanted, didn't get his own way, and now he's throwing his toys out of the pram. It's pathetic, isn't it?
It is. And now a palace spokesperson said tonight that all of these issues have been examined repeatedly and meticulously by the courts with the same conclusion reached on every occasion. So when he asks his father to step aside, the palace is saying, we have. Multiple people have looked it over and they've all come to the same decision. Now, I want to express to you that this entire interview is such a beautiful display of Prince Harry's lack of loyalty. It's why his father won't talk to him. An inquiry found that the BBC covered up information about how Martin Bashir secured his interview with Princess Diana, Prince Harry's mother, for that big panorama exclusive that changed both of their lives, hers for the worst. Some say that because of that interview, her dismissing her security, she died in that Paris tunnel because she was not properly protected. So who does Prince Harry run to with an exclusive? the BBC.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the perfect example of hypocrisy.
It certainly is. And the preposterous suggestion, well, I can't bring my children to see my home country. Now, what a ridiculous thing to say. He can't bring his children to Britain because he thinks they're going to get killed. That's just absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I mean, the man is losing his mind, if you ask me. And he also, has a go at his dad for not talking to him, his dad not backing him up, and he calls for a reconciliation. It's time for reconciliation. There's too much. There's no point in. But wait a second. Whose fault is this schism? Whose fault is this split? It's him. It's the horrible interview that him and Meghan gave to Oprah Winfrey, calling the royal family racist. It's his disgusting, vile little book which peed all over the royal family, peed all over Britain. They called all of us slave drivers. This is why your dad's not talking to you. This is why your family aren't talking to you, because you did this to yourself, Ginger Nuts, didn't you?
Absolutely, but you know what? He's giving Thomas Markle. He's doing the rounds, saying, "Please pick up your phones. No one's talking to me." He looks just like Thomas Markle. If Prince Harry wants King Charles to give him a call, maybe Meghan Markle should pick up the phone and call her own freaking father, who's had health issues too. But also, I want to say this is a nightmare from a PR perspective. If I worked for them, I would quit. If I worked for As Ever, I would throw in the towel, because Harry and Meghan's interviews in the last 2 weeks completely cancel each other out.
Yeah.
That man sitting there looked like he was, it looked miserable as all hell. And Meghan Markle sits there in New York and says, "I'm the happiest I've ever been."
You're so right. You're so right. I mean, they're a catastrophe, this couple. I've had a straw poll. A lot of my friends who aren't even in journalism sending me WhatsApps today going, that's so-and-so Harry. Everybody really hates him for this. We had contempt for him for pursuing this ludicrous case in the first place. The preposterous proposition that if he brings his family to Britain, they'll all be killed, which we find insulting in itself, and it's stupid and it's wrong. And now he's saying, why can't we have a reconciliation? Oh, I don't know, Harry. Think about what you said to Oprah. Think about what you put in your spiteful little book. Maybe that's got something to do with it. It's unbelievable. I think he needs help.
Yeah, this is probably not the time to attack your father who has cancer.
Yes.
Why don't you lay off of him? Give him a freaking break to try to heal. I mean, he made not only the Queen and Prince Philip's lives a living hell towards the end, but here we are with poor King Charles.
Yeah, this is it. He's crossed the line this time. I don't think there's any way back. And then Meghan will only make matters worse. Kinsey, all too brief, but brilliant stuff as always. Thank you very much. Kinsey Schofield there over on the West Coast. Let me know what you think about Harry today. 0344 499 1000. We're going back to America next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, let me know what you think about Harry. You know, I cover a lot of Harry and Meghan stories, as you might have noticed. I do find them interesting, I'll admit, but I'm feeling pretty angry about this. So what are you, Pete?
I'm exasperated by them, and everything I know about them is completely involuntary. I don't seek out this knowledge. People seem to keep telling me it, but you are right that we have to keep talking about them because of the hypocrisy and the awfulness and the damage that they're doing to a family. This is the bit that I think people keep forgetting, is that whilst they're the royals, they are a family as well, and this just is terrible. It's the fact that Harry takes no responsibility.
Exactly right.
No responsibility.
Exactly right.
He is a spoilt 3-year-old child.
Never his fault.
Never his fault. Everything is somebody else's fault. And the prime one was when he was pushed back on. Oh, you said that a member of the royal family was racist, and he said, no, the media said that. No, he didn't. It's not true.
And that's what he's doing again, Pete. He's gaslighting.
He's gaslighting.
He's saying, I think it's time for a reconciliation.
Because he can't be the bad
guy. There's no point in continuing this feud. Well, you started it, and you started it in a kind of incendiary way. You know, you can't shout across the Atlantic, oh, my family are all racists. And then they did that Netflix documentary series, imaginatively entitled Harry and Meghan, in which they actually called all of us in Britain slave drivers.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, we're all racists, according to them. And now he said, it's time for reconciliation. No, mate. No. It doesn't go like that. You can't commit these awful crimes and then expect everybody to just drop them and forget them. It just doesn't get it.
For me, the one with this court case is the fact that I think it's really about Harry doesn't like the fact that nobody cares about him. So he needs this to kind of reinforce the idea that people care about him, you know, because he's not getting the protection that he thinks he needs because he doesn't need it. That's what he doesn't like.
There's a yearning for attention.
There's a yearning for attention there, and I think that's what it is.
Because it's all to do, as I was saying earlier, with this status.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
This entire armed cop legal saga was because he couldn't take the fact. Had he not flitted across the Atlantic and run away with Meghan from the royal scene, he would have been a frontline royal, and both of them automatically, every time they stepped out of their front door, would have had a full armed police guard everywhere they went. Armed police protection, because Harry and Meghan were the part of the frontline royals. Had he not have done that, but had he not have gone to America, he would have had that. But you can't expect British taxpayers to pay for his protection when he comes here, when he only comes here once or twice a year, you know. So it's just absurd. And it is also he's sort of blinkered. He doesn't see it, does he?
No, he really doesn't. And, you know, at some point you just really want to just give him a shake and, just say, buck up, because you're sounding like a child.
He does sound like a child.
Yeah, he really does.
If you're watching Harry, look up the term arrested development.
100%.
I think that is your problem. He is like some sort of spoiled teenager.
Yeah, he's like one of these kids that has been raised by one of these like yummy mummy types. You know, like little Quentin, come here, like all that kind of stuff. And it's very clearly shows that he's never been told no. When he was younger. And I
cannot take rejection.
Can't take rejection.
And a classic establishment stitch-up.
100%.
No. A reasoned legal decision in the British courts 3 times. You know, 3 times unlucky for you. Let me know what you think about Harry. What we're waiting for right now, I don't know if it will happen, but we've been told that Nigel Farage will be making a speech, should have been about now, in Staffordshire, where I believe Reform have won the council.
It was their first council.
First council they've won. They've won 7 now, we believe, which is pretty amazing. Don't forget they didn't have any before today. Anyway, Nigel Farage, we're told he's already made a speech a couple of hours ago, but we might be able to bring you the speech he's about to make, we hope, live. So if he does start talking, we will zoom over to Staffordshire and bring it to you. In the meantime, though, what better opportunity to take some of your calls? I'll read some of your messages as well. First of all, let's go to Paul in Liverpool. Hello, Paul.
Yeah, hi Kev. Just about today, all day about the Reform winning everything, and every politician who's come on, it's almost like and the news channels has dismissed the people who put them in power as if they were nothing, as if they were, oh, it's just a few people, don't worry about it, as if it didn't happen. And I was staring them in the face that this landslide was phenomenal, and they were going, "Oh no, it's nothing. Don't worry about it." It's. I was astonished. I was thinking, "Are you blind?"
Yeah. You're right, Paul. Me and Pete Barnes is in the studio with me. We were talking about this earlier. That they have just ridden roughshod over what the people think, what the people want, what the people don't want. And, you know, I sensed it. What do you both think? I sensed it during the biggest row, which was, of course, the winter fuel allowance. That, you know, we're going, this is terrible. It's not logical. Why are you doing this? And they just, they were sort of shrugging their shoulders.
The key moment for me was when he was asked, was there an impact report? And he said, nothing came across my desk. I think as though it was the concerns just weren't a problem.
They thought, oh, don't worry about it. This will be a storm. Didn't you think, Paul? They thought, oh, there'll be a bit of a storm, but it'll blow over.
To me, this proved they hate the working man. Everybody else is more important than the working man. It is now official, and the people have had enough. But they still don't accept that the working man has any value. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And I think they've got their comeuppance today. They seriously have. But look, I mean, looking back over their, what is it now, 10 months or so since they came into power on July the 5th. I mean, think about it. It's astonishing the mistakes they've made. The complete production line of massive howlers. I mean, they're just hopeless, aren't they, Paul?
I tell you, Liverpool used to be a Labour city, major Labour city. It is nobody who wants them. Nobody, Kev, not a soul.
That is fascinating.
You can go online. You can go online here, and all the pages, you know, the Liverpool pages, Scouse Bible, and so on. They are slating them.
That's
it is
interesting.
Endless.
Yeah, because you're quite right. I mean, Liverpool always had the reputation of being one of the most left-wing Labour cities in the country, because it's very much a very fine, brilliant working-class city. And you're right, Paul. If there's one class of person that this current Labour Party hate, it's working class people.
Definitely.
They are the party of the metropolitan elite. They are the party of the North London dinner party circuit. And they're paying the price today. Paul, I guess you voted Reform, did you?
No, do you know what, Kev? I didn't vote. You know, I just, you know, when I've give up.
Yeah, Julia Hartley-Brewer will give you a hell of a bollocking right now.
That is a big problem.
But I respect it. I mean, I think so many people now have become so disillusioned that they just can't be bothered.
I can see some light now, actually, believe it or not, after today.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. We've had a good day, Paul, got to move on, though. Brilliant call. Always good to talk to you, mate. Paul in Liverpool there. Still no sign of Nige in his speech. Politicians, you know, they never, ever are on time, are they?
Never.
What was it the other week? We're waiting for Donald Trump to do his tariff speech. I think it was 90 minutes late.
Do you not remember Kamala Harris? Oh, we were sat here for how long?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, my God. I was like, my dinner's ready.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, your partner's a chef, so you wanted to get back, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Right, let's go to East Yorkshire and talk to Patrick. Hello, Patrick.
Hey, Kev, how are we doing?
All right, mate. What would you like to say? You want to talk about Starmer?
Well, we fell for it first time with a play on words when they said that they wasn't going to tax the working people. And they came round and they did it through NI through the back door. You listening to Starmer today, he doesn't get it at all. He says people voted for change, we're doing change, and we're going to be harder and faster. That doesn't mean he's going to deviate off what he's doing. That means that he's going to absolutely go to town and wreck us completely. Because
totally right, I agree.
In 4 years' time, he's going to leave us with absolutely nothing, and this net zero garbage that is absolutely pulling us down to
The net zero garbage is ridiculous, and how a government can sort of sacrifice itself, if you like, on the altar of one man's ideological lunacy, his evangelism. I'm talking about crazy Ed Miliband, is beyond me. And you know what? You know, Ed Miliband is more than an evangelist. He's more than an ideological and unscientific ideologue. He's a bigot.
He's the dangerous convert. Converts are always more dangerous.
He's a bigot. He's a bigot. So when it was decided ludicrously that we wouldn't frack, he went the extra mile and had all the fracking mines filled with concrete, so no one could ever do it.
That's the point, is he went the extra step to make sure it couldn't be undone.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the real point.
Because he's a bigot.
Yeah, but there's also the interesting fact that Angela Rayner has started to team up with him. And now, because in the coming weeks, we're going to start seeing the changes to house building.
Yeah, you've heard of the dream ticket?
Yes,
Meet the nightmare ticket.
Yeah, well, the reality is, I think Starmer saddled these two with these two particular policies to take them out of a leadership competition, which I think might not be that far around the corner. Because I think what will happen at the end of next month, at the end of this month, now in May, is a reshuffle. Yeah. There's been one in the background for a while now. Here's your excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's your excuse to start getting rid of people and blame the individual cabinet secretaries for their failure. Not Keir Starmer, they failed. And that means he's protected from any leadership challenge because there's nobody there to take him out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he's done. In a way, it's Westminster politics genius level, which means it's probably not his idea.
Yeah.
But I think this is what he's done. Is he realises he's not that great. So what he's done is he's taken out the layer the next round.
Got a nice message from Nicola in London that I think you might like. Always love your show. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you. Love bringing out those things. A great show, Kid. Thanks.
There's no way to say it like bashfully, is there?
Some presenters on this channel that do a hell of a lot of that. Right. So Nicola says, Kemi does not pretend or want to be a media personality, and I like that about her. She is looking to fundamentally change the Conservative Party, and I think she should be given the time to do that. The last thing we need is a generic-style tweaking and sticking plaster solution. We need root and branch reform, which takes time rather than sound bites. I would say Nicola's a very intelligent lady.
I think she's bang on with that, and I said this at the beginning, and I've been saying it all day too. Two people in the Conservative Party to calm down. The hysterics that have come out of certain aspects of the party have been ridiculous today. Well, I think there's one person that said it was apocalyptic. Don't get me wrong, we're bordering that line, but we're not really there yet. But I've been hanging out with a few people from CCHQ, and I tell you now, others of them I seem to still have their head in the sand, and that's very concerning to me. But
some of the claptrap I've heard from some Tories today,
just nonsense.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, is this the end of the two-party system? It looks like it is, but it's a bit more than that. I think the story is you've got a three-party system. They like to say, the BBC and Channel, it's the end of the two-party system, because that's easier in their minds to say than, oh my God, Reform UK are now a big party. You can forget about the Lib Dems. You can forget about the Greens. Greens did quite well. Lib Dems got their usual protest vote, but they will never be big players. I think that Reform UK, they are a big player now.
But the one thing I will say is on the Greens is the rise of the kind of the sectarian politics, how the kind of the Free Gaza lot have infiltrated the Greens. And if you look at one of the council seats that was up for election today, it went to one of these Free Gaza lot through the Green Party. So that element is still there for the Labour Party, and it's seeping votes away. That, as we were talking just a couple of weeks ago about the danger of losing the Muslim vote, we're starting to see it in the results.
A couple more messages. This is Sue from Ripon in North Yorkshire. Lovely town. I was absolutely disgusted and appalled when I saw the BBC Politics show tweet read Dame Andrea Jenkins mentioning her as a former Greggs worker and Miss UK finalist. I mean, she goes on. Sue goes on. It's such an uncalled for, derogatory statement. Shame on the BBC. Absolutely, Sue. I mean, the snobbery in that.
It
the
is.
snobbery.
But the thing that annoys me the most is I'm not surprised.
What's wrong with being a former Greggs worker?
Yeah.
What is wrong with that?
Yeah.
And for that matter, what's wrong with being a Miss UK finalist?
I mean, you know, people are screaming out for normal people to get into politics, and you know, and when Andrea comes from a normal background, and you know, she's done incredibly well. She's risen to the top of one of the toughest political parties to rise up in. She's now just stormed a brilliant election. You know, don't get me wrong, she's not my side anymore, but I wish her well, and you know, all of that.
She's a nice lady.
Yeah, and I tell you now, like I hope she does a really good job. But you know, the way the BBC and the kind of establishment media, or legacy media, and all that lot, you know, I've looked down on reform. You know, it's terrible, and that's why I've always said I'm not a reform critic. For me, it is I want there's some reality dose about where we actually are with reform.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've got one here. This is from Sue. A different Sue. I'm not very keen on Farage, but I do believe Reform are going to run Britain in the near future because they don't suck up to immigrants and elite plonkers. I'm not sure. I said to Alex Phillips today on Talk, I was on her show, that until today, I've never put too much store about, Nigel Farage is going to be the next Prime Minister. I still think it's a big uphill battle for him, but I think it is a proposition. Today, I now take it seriously. I don't
know.
I think your microphone.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's working now. It's working now.
No, I think you're right, but I do think a dose of reality needs to come back.
I'm not running away with it. We've got to take it seriously.
Yes, but this is my point. Is always that reform never seem to be controlling their own narrative. Other people are describing reform. You know, this is where I think that they just need to get a grip on it.
Well, they've got.
But now is their
opportunity,
and it's a big step up. And if they perform well, you know, it's brilliant. But they've got to step up and they've got to get serious. They've got to drop the nonsense and the circus and the pageantry. This is now about governing. You campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. Yeah. And this is about delivering. They've got to deliver.
I like that.
That was said by a New York governor. It was Cuomo.
You should have just said it was said by me.
No. It's a very famous
It was a good enough quote.
I wish it was mine. But this is the point. It's about delivering.
Yeah.
And reform, if they deliver, you know, the field's theirs at the moment.
Got a lot of response. I'm really glad you got everybody. Lots of responses about what we said about the media, the BBC and Sky. This is Hilton Fernie, wonderful name, in Renwick in Gateshead. Hilton Fernie says it's the righteous attitude of people like the Sky journalist that drives people towards voting for reform. Andrea just said what the majority of normal people think. I agree with that. And here's another one. This is Fred Morgan. He says, "Hi Kev, Fred here in Surrey. Andrea is spot on. Even tents are too." I knew I'd strike. God, there. Tents are too much. They should be sent back immediately with no time to. Yeah, I need no time to put up a tent.
Yeah, that's true.
But it is true that in France, if they're lucky, they will be issued a tent. That's what they get, migrants. Nothing else, a tent. And most of them don't even get that. And it does beg the question, why do they only get a tent in France? And nobody goes, those French, the way they treat those migrants is disgusting. Nobody says anything about the way the French treat the migrants. And we give them everything.
And this is where I go back to where it's not that she made a mistake, it's just she could have cleaned it up better by actually throwing an attack line back, by actually saying, well, why should they get anything more? Why should they? The way that certain members of Reform have fallen into the trap has gifted the legacy media the attack line to call them racist and all this nonsense. They just need to tighten up the messaging a little bit and not deviate too much.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what they really, really need to hammer down on now that they're kind of making these big steps, because the legacy media will double down like you've never seen.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, you know, I think give them a tent. Well, better than give them a tent. Just don't let them stay.
Yeah.
Don't let them cross. You know, this smash the gangs nonsense is just a sick national joke now. Chris Philps, the Shadow Home Secretary, said that today.
Yeah.
It's a sick joke. It is a sick joke, but no one is laughing, folks. Right, look, we've got a call waiting. We're going to go to break now. We've got a call waiting from James in Northern Ireland. I really want to talk to you, James, because we're going to be going to America in just a while. James wants to talk about what he calls the Trump trend, that somehow Britain is following the Trump effect. And we're going to go over to the States in a little while to discuss just that. But stick around, we'll talk to James after these messages.
You can't claim to be the party of low tax when the Conservative government put up taxes higher than they'd ever been since the Second World War, and you can't claim to be the party.
Well, we did out of necessity.
Well, look, the fact is you did it. It doesn't matter.
I think this is key because, I know we had to do it because we spent £400 billion on the pandemic.
Yeah, but you can't claim
as soon as we could start reducing taxes, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, no, I get that, but Nigel, you can't claim to be the party of lower taxes if you're putting them up to the highest level they've ever been at.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, my colleague, David Bull, Dr. David Bull, presenter here, of course, is currently introducing Nigel Farage. So Nigel Farage will be cropping up fairly soon. But David's speaking, so we don't think Nigel will be on for a couple of hours.
In my head, I was thinking decades. You were nicer.
No, seriously, we've just got time. In 35 minutes, it's my fantastic show, The Return after 2 weeks, my TV show. What just happened? That's on 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock tonight, and tomorrow on YouTube as of about 9:15, 9:30, and then you can watch it whenever you want throughout the weekend and forevermore. I highly recommend it. Here's a clip. That when he was much younger, he was quite handsome.
He was.
But something has happened to him over the years.
No.
But he's certainly not a fox now,
He
is he?
wasn't handsome. He was just a prince.
Yeah.
Did that make him attractive?
If that guy had been working at the, the desk of Halfords, you wouldn't have fancied him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The fact that he comes with some palaces and stuff.
That does add to the attractiveness, doesn't it?
It changes a lot. Let's be fair.
That's the thing, isn't it? She talks about, I work so hard, so hard, so hard. Well, at a certain point in a woman's life, like Meghan, you can make the choice. Am I going to work hard for the rest of my life, or shall I marry into money? I know. I'll do the latter. That's us talking about Prince Harry. Meghan, of course, this week in one of... she gave, I think, 476 interviews this week, and in one of them she described Harry as a fax, which I think means he's extremely good-looking. And for a balding ginger... jerk. He's... Anyway, I asked Alex Phillips, of course, the great Alex Phillips there. I asked her whether or not, as a woman, you can say that now.
You can say that now, yeah.
She found Harry to be attractive, and she didn't. She didn't.
There was a story that actually Meghan was after a rich British husband for quite some time. That she deliberately was looking for one.
Yeah, I think a rich British royal husband. I think she zoned in on Harry, and Harry. Sacrificed her life to his life.
Pick the weakest of the herd.
Listen, we're still waiting for David to finish his speech. As I say, we're anticipating it. It's coming up for 8:30. We think it'll be over around about midnight, and then Nigel will come on. But before that, let's quickly talk to James in Northern Ireland. Hi, James.
Hi, Gavin. How you doing?
I'm all right. It's interesting that you want to talk about the Trump effect, and I think it's a big factor. And we're hoping at a later stage in this show to go over to America to talk to our friend Greg Swenson on that very topic. But my feeling is that over in America, when they voted for Trump, it was the people saying, we are sick and tired of these woke liberal politicians, this government telling us what's good for us, not listening to what we want. And I think what we've seen in the last 24 hours in Britain is the same. Do you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. With the election, even Elon said it before their election, if this if the Republicans didn't, if Trump didn't win the election, it will be actually a one-party system over there because of all the immigration and the change in demographics.
Yeah.
So that was the most important election in hundreds of years, literally. Like, you know.
But do you agree when you talk about the Trump trend? I mean, Trump.
It's one thing that I was just listening to even your show, Jim. It was just one thing.
Yeah.
None of your presenters really mentioned. All I just thought.
Well, I wanted to do it because I think it's really relevant. I think that it's a sort of Western democracy thing that's going on. It's happening in Europe as well. For decades now, we've basically been talked down to by governments who don't really care what we think, never have. Suddenly the people, that's us, are saying, we are sick of not being listened to, and we are not going to let you do exactly what you want and expect us to put up with it. I think that's, in America, they said, get the hell out of Dodge, as they say, Biden and you woke Democrats, and I think we're probably in the process of saying the same to Labour, but of course we've got 4 more years of their dreadful government. Do you concur, James?
Not only the government, it's the legacy media and the mainstream media as well too.
Yeah, they're part of the pageant, aren't they?
What I would say is I don't think people realise just how ingrained woke is into the institutions of this country, and actually how difficult it is going to be to scrape it out. I think that the difference with America is it's very surface level stuff, but here it is nuts and bolts. It's like tree trunks, not branches. It is incredibly ingrained, and there are people that are very willing to fight back and use the power of the institutions to fight back. There is nothing more dangerous than a woke person backed into a corner, and that's what we're going to start seeing now. This stuff is going to come at us pretty hard, and it's a fight. It is a fight, and unfortunately, for too long it was seen as a bit of a joke, and that it was allowed to advance too far. But I do think we are turning a corner. Like Trump, I think is a big fight, like you said, in Europe as well. But in Britain, I think it is a little bit different because it is nuts and bolts. It is in our system. It is an infection. I always use the word infection, and we need some strong antibiotics. And I don't think we're going to get that for a while.
I'm liking all these medical allergies.
No, because I always look at it in that way, that it's the way that it spreads. And I think that's the important bit to realise. But one thing I would keep your eye on is the financial aspect of it, the ESG score stuff, the bit where people are making money out of woke. Once that starts to seep off here in the UK, that is when you'll start to see real change on the woke stuff.
Right.
And that's the big one to keep your eye on. When big banks stop funding it, stop doing ethical investments, as they call it, that's when woke will disappear.
Yeah, well, of course, woke disappeared at a stroke in America, and I think the Supreme Court ruling on biological sex last Monday, that was a big moment. It is going downhill, but we've still got a journey to make. James, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for an excellent call. James in Northern Ireland. Any sign of David's speech ending anytime soon? I see you, Youssef. So, okay. Well, Well, let Zia talk, and then. So when are we? Sorry, I'm talking. Talk amongst yourself, everybody. I'm talking to my production team. When are we expecting Nigel? Oh, he will come on soon.
Is it before or after the next general election?
Yeah. Let's read a few more messages here, because I want to at some point. I'm hoping to, as I was just saying to James in Northern Ireland, I'm hoping to go over to the States to talk to Greg Swenson, our friend, about the Trump effect. But if we, sorry, this is like radio verite. If we go over to, excuse me, everybody, I'm just talking to my producer. If we go over to Greg now, what happens if Nigel Farage comes on? We have to cut him off. So I think we should wait for. We'll wait for Nigel. Oh, come on, let's go over to Greg. Let's talk to Greg, but we'll have to cut him off if necessary. Let's go over to Greg Swenson. I think Greg's in Chicago, is he? Are you there, Greg? It's Chicago?
Yeah, I am in Chicago, yeah.
Okay, we might have to cut you off because we're waiting for Nigel Farage's speech. But we just had a call. You've seen what's happened here over the last 24 hours. Absolute political earthquake. Reform triumphant sensation. They're taking councils left, right and centre. They won the parliamentary by-election in Runcorn, overturning a massive majority, 14,000 majority. You know, something is happening here. And you know, there are all sorts of reasons. But I think the Trump factor is one of them. In a small way, what's happened here, what is happening here, already happened in the States. The people said, we're sick and tired of these liberal metropolitan elites ploughing on, doing exactly what they want and not listening to us. And they've had enough. So it happened in America. Do you sense, you know London, do you sense it's happening here as well?
It's amazing. The conservative movement is on fire right now, with a couple of exceptions, like in Canada, that was a debacle. But generally speaking, I mean, I found in London people had Trump envy, or better put, America envy after the election. You know, the question to me was, why can't we do that here? Well, it sounds like that's happening in the UK, and good for Nigel Farage and reform. It's you know, they listen to the people. It's a pretty simple form.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Greg, stay where you are. We have to go to break because I've got to fit commercials in. We'll come back to you. Right, let's go to break. We'll go back to Greg after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go back to our friend Greg Swenson over there in Chicago. I guess, Greg, are you... I suppose you can't call yourself chairman of the Republican Overseas Republicans, can you anymore?
I still can, because it's a
because you want
world. To. And, yeah, exactly, that too. Yeah. But also, no, as you know, Kevin, we are keeping our flat in London. We're going to max our 90 days that Big Brother has permitted us to stay there. So.
Yeah. So you see, you've been in Britain too long. Our flat.
Yeah,
you
I spotted that one.
Don't say that in Chicago. They won't know what you're talking about. Let's go back to what we were...
Last week. Yeah. My son gave me a hard time about that. I think I used the word lift instead of elevator.
That's right. Hey. Yeah, we made a Brit of you. So seriously, let's go back to what we were saying. The Trump effect. You're right. British people, ever since Donald got in, have been green with envy. I mean, on the downside, you know, I'm a big fan of Donald Trump, but I'm pretty furious with him because he basically is responsible for that clown George Carney becoming the new woke Prime Minister of Canada because of all that 51st state stuff. So Carney ran on, I'll stop Trump taking over Canada. I mean, it was only really a joke anyway, wasn't it?
I know, and that's why, you know, it's an unintended consequence of President Trump's kind of provocative, unorthodox way of doing things. And 90% of the time it works and the outcomes are great. I think this is the exception. And the poor Canadian people, I mean, the Conservatives were up 20 points, 3 months ago. And they've suffered under 10 years of mismanagement. And now you have net zero fanatic Mark Carney that's going to continue to run that economy into the ground. They've got 4 times the oil reserves of America and of the United States, and they're producing half as much, or 40% as much. So he's just, Trudeau did his best to wreck that economy and make the people suffer with, the truckers and everything else that he did. But more importantly, the economic outcomes. And they're going to have 4 or 5 more years of it.
What do you, our economy is in big trouble, partly because of the Labour government's mad, totally insane net zero obsession, which is ruining personal economies and the national economy. 5 times more expensive our energy bills are than yours. That's a good reason to be back in God's own country, right, Greg? Your electricity bills are way down. But the American economy's had a dodgy phase, hasn't it? Everybody's saying that now America's paying the price for Donald's tariff saga. What's your feeling? I mean, it has taken a bit of a dip, hasn't it?
No, it hasn't. Okay, the markets took a dip in early April and fully recovered. So the press, the legacy media and the progressive movement here was whining. All of a sudden they cared about the stock market. They were, the sky was falling was their attitude. Look what Trump has done to the economy. No, it's not the economy, it's the equity markets. That yes, they traded down. Not a word in the last 2 weeks of April when they had one of the greatest turnarounds in economic history or market history. So it's a lot of hysteria over Trump because he's Trump, because Trump. So the market's recovered. The problem, down 4 or 5% on the, since the election, but nothing meaningful, not down 15 like it was in mid-April. But here's what's important is it's the real economy. It's the Main Street economy that Trump cares about. The markets will ultimately follow. And they are. I mean, market rallied huge today because the unemployment report came out much better, or I should say the employment report, the non-farm payroll report came out at 177,000. The expectation was 130. This is great for Trump in negotiating trade because now China and the rest of them can't look at the economic indicators and say, oh, Trump's vulnerable. He's not. The economy is in great shape here. It's just when you said everybody's saying there's a problem, everybody is the press, the legacy
BBC.
Yeah. And, all the corporate media.
So nothing to worry about on that front. Let's talk about something that I think is a major story that's emerged today. America has pulled out of formal peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. So they've left them to it. Do you think that's the end of the story?
I don't think it's the end of the story. I mean, we kind of saw that coming. There was real frustration, on the part of President Trump and the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. They're frustrated, and I understand why. They were optimists. They thought they could fix this. The wild card, obviously, is Putin. And if they can't really manage the process, there's no sense in trying to stick it out and negotiate something that's not negotiable, at least as far as Putin is concerned.
So do you think that's the end of the story for Trump? He'll step back in when the time is right, won't it?
In many ways, this is just
it's a ploy, isn't it? It's a ploy.
Yeah, and then and if Putin, I'm not sure he's too worried about sanctions because he doesn't mind if his people are starving or if his soldiers are dying on the front. Yeah. But I do think at some point, if he's isolated the way I think he will be, and it's too bad. I think a reset with Russia would be wise. They do have 4,500 nuclear warheads, so they've shown how incapable they are in terms of conventional warfare, in a virtual stalemate with Ukraine. And also they have a very weak economy, but they do have the nuclear warheads. So whether we like it or not, Russia's going to play a punch above its weight.
Sure. What do you make of Mike Waltz getting the high jump as national security advisor. He's been given the world's worst sinecure, hasn't he? He's now UN ambassador, the world's worst non-job. But what do you think Mike Waltz basically got a delayed punishment for those, I was going to call them WhatsApp messages, but it's Signal, isn't it? The Signal messages. I mean, that was not his finest hour, inviting in a left-wing journalist, was it?
Someone had to go for that. He did admit, that he took responsibility. This is what you do when you're a military man, which he is. He was a, former Green Beret, first Green Beret to hold that position, actually. And so, he took the high road and took responsibility. And I think, he ultimately had to go. I mean, it's amazing versus the Biden years where nobody was fired after Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, I think also that Donald left it until he got past the 100-day mark. But I think it's good news that Mike Waltz has gone, because otherwise it would have looked as if Trump, isn't prepared to sack anyone or do anything dramatic because it will look bad in the media. Do you know what I mean? So he's not afraid to make these moves, which I think is good. Yeah.
You saw it in the first term, and I think, he's not afraid to pivot. You've seen it even with the tariffs and the so-called trade war. When he saw the markets were in trouble, especially the bond markets, because interest rates are really important in the sense that, the government's paying $1 trillion a year in interest. That's more than we spend on defense for the first time, thanks to Sleepy Joe. But that's our problem now. We can blame Biden all we want, and I enjoy it. But, we need to deal with that. So we need to keep rates down. When the bond market was wobbly in mid-April, I think he had to pivot, and he did. So good for him.
Now you're in Chicago, heartland America, proper city. What's your sense? We're beginning to get the story. Oh, America is tiring of Trump. The honeymoon period is ending. What's your sense around you? How are Americans feeling about their president now?
My sense is complete economic optimism. Okay, you have a natural 100-day moment where there is some voter remorse, right? So 2% of Trump voters are saying to the pollsters, I regret my vote. Biden's number was 14. And remember, Reagan, who also, really transformed the economy, much like Trump is trying to do, transforming trade or global trade. Reagan was polling at 35 in early 1983. And, 18 months later, he won 49 states. So it takes a while for economic policy to work. It will take a while for it to flow through. So I'm not saying there won't be some price adjustments or one-time adjustments, but he's going in with not just trade, but he's going in with tax reform or lower taxes and massive deregulation, Kevin. I wish the UK would take a page out of the playbook, because it's regulations, it's a regulatory burden that's really crushing UK businesses and UK consumers. And so that's what he's doing right now.
Get rid of the regulations. I mean, what was that great phrase I heard a couple of months ago? America innovates, China imitates, and Europe regulates. That's it, isn't it?
And you'll see, we saw it in the first term. He deregulated in the first term. We saw fantastic economic growth. More importantly, real wage growth. And so we'll see that again. It might take 6 or 10 months to flow through. Energy prices are already down because he's liberating the energy sector. Drill Baby is working already. And so, these are important issues for Americans, and all this hype about tariffs and it's going to create inflation, not true. This is just hysteria from Trump derangement syndrome in the media and on the left.
And you know about the economy. So listen,
I don't know much about anything, but I know
you know about financial matters. You seriously do. Listen, Greg, I'm going to have to go now, but come back on the show next week, maybe Monday, and we'll have a proper chat. But we're trying to sort of juggle you and Nigel Farage and God knows what. That was Greg Swenson, chair of the Republican Overseas over there in Chicago. Let's go to break now because we're still waiting for Nigel Farage. David Bull's back. He's making David Ball's gone back. We've had Zia Yousaf, the party chairman, the Reform Party chairman. David Ball went back. Now we've got our friend Andrea Jenkins, Dame Andrea Jenkins. So we'll go to break now, and hopefully we'll get a few minutes of Farage after we come back. So stick around.
You can't claim to be the party of low tax when the Conservative government put up taxes higher than they'd ever been since the Second World War, and you can't claim to be the party.
Well, we did out of necessity.
Well, look, but the fact is you did it. It doesn't matter.
I think this is key because we had to do it because we spent £400 billion on the pandemic.
Yeah, but you can't claim
as soon as we could start reducing taxes, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, no, I get that, but Nigel, you can't claim to be the party of lower taxes if you're putting them up to the highest level they've ever been at.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. The procession of lengthy speeches at Stafford, in Staffordshire, where Reform UK have taken over the council, sensationally. I mean, you can't blame them. They're celebrating. So we've had David Ball twice.
It's like the share tour.
Zia Yousaf, the Reform UK chairman, and now the newly elected triumphant mayor of Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkins, great friend of this show. Oh, look, we've got some, and we're waiting now, of course, for the main attraction, and we've got 9 minutes. So what we'll probably end up, we'll give you about 30 seconds of Nigel Farage saying hello.
Yeah. Here's Nigel, end of show.
Here he is. We've got some WhatsApp voice notes, though. First of all, this is on Keir Starmer, and this is Jack.
With the whole Smashster gangs, the only gangs he's managed to smash so far was a couple coming back from their holiday. They were none the wiser. But yeah, going forward, I think there are manoeuvres to maybe slide around the side of Starmer from some of his front benches. You know, the Save the Net Zero group. See him out the door soon, I believe.
I would do that if I was Labour, but Pete Barnes is shaking his head.
I disagree because
well, they're so sclerotic.
That's the point. Is that actually there's no one to really replace him. Who are you going to replace him with?
This is the party that's stuck with Jeremy Corbyn.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
And this is what I'm saying. Starmer has positioned himself brilliantly that he is untouchable because no one's going to vote for Angela Rayner, Yvette Cooper, West Streeting, none of these lot. He's actually been able to elevate himself a bunch of nobodies because he has been able to dump the bad policies on them.
Absolutely. I think David Bull's back. It's a hat trick. David Bull's back. This is the David Bull show.
I told you, it's like the Share Tour. It never ends.
Listen, but let's race through. We've got another WhatsApp voice note from Anna. This again, Keir Starmer.
Starmer lost the country the day it was 4:30. We were all sat at work. He went onto TV to scold us all and tell us that we were far right. At that point, alongside jailing our fellow citizens for Facebook posts, he lost the country. Didn't matter what he did after that, Kev. He was never going to get it back. That's my opinion anyway.
Totally right. And
totally right.
Southport, the summer riots, just after he came into power, he lied to us. He started sending everyone to prison. He sent sort of people to prison for things they wrote on Facebook. And the country, to say they fell out of love with him is the understatement of the century. He absolutely balls that up really badly.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Let's go on to Steve. And Steve is talking about reform.
The delicious irony of the Tories and all the left taking an almighty kicking from Reform, who they dismissed as basically a radical minority group who shouldn't be taken seriously and to take no notice of. Yep, they've given them a good hiding. At the same time, over the last couple of years, they've been taking notice and bending backwards for every other real radical minority lunatic group. So, the joke's on them and they've got egg on their face, and long may it continue.
Yeah, I think Steve's got a good point. I think that it was their tactic to classify Reform UK as a bunch of upstarts, a little protest party. And then I think they convinced themselves that that's all they were.
Yeah.
They were a bit more than that.
I agree, but again, I would still just pull back on the narrative that this is a foregone conclusion now that it's reforms to lose. I'm just saying,
I know,
when we look at the data, it wasn't a great turnout for them. This is the point.
You remember that Monty Python night, that gets his arms chopped over.
It's just a flesh
wound. Come on, I'll bite your head off.
No, but I'm just saying there is a lot of ground to cover, and this idea that he's got to be Prime Minister tomorrow. Let's just pull that back.
Let's just okay. Right, this is Bridget again on reform.
We stayed up till 3 o'clock this morning and watching you again this evening. What a fantastic day. We were out with French friends last night and all they could talk about was the rats and the bins and the rubbish in Birmingham. But I said to them, today is going to be a really good day for the UK.
Yeah, I'm going to Birmingham tomorrow to watch Fulham. They're playing Aston Villa, and somebody tweeted that I would be terrified of rats as big as cats because I've been saying that. I'm not really bothered by rats as big as cats. I love Birmingham. Looking forward to seeing you all up there. This is Theresa on Labour.
The reason why the Labour Party are where they are is their arrogance. They really believe that they are doing what's right for us and we don't know what's good for us. And again, as in Brexit, we're all sick of it.
Theresa there, absolutely, Theresa, articulating exactly what Pete and I have been saying.
They never learned from Brexit.
Yeah, exactly.
They never learned
and they're arrogant. They don't listen to that. You should have learned from Brexit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They really should have.
One last WhatsApp voice note. A lot of WhatsApp voice notes. Thank you for sending them. Always a pleasure. This is Deb.
Labour promises the world they would do this, they would do that. They've upped the national insurance. They've upped the council tax. They took away their winter fuel allowance. Let's be honest. They're just liars. But, today is a good day. Well done, Reform, and let's hope that this is a change for the better.
Right, the latest... thank you, Deb. Very good WhatsApp voice note. Thank you for all... They were all very good. the current person giving a speech.
Here we go.
How many speeches are going to have there? And now for the 78th speech of the night. This is Sarah, the lady who brilliantly won Runcorn, so she deserves her moment in the sunshine. After she's finished, David Bull will be back.
Quick lap.
Yeah. The good doctor will return to the stage. And it looks as if we're going to miss Nigel Farage, but it'll be along the lines of reformers coming. This has been an extraordinary political earthquake, a seismic event. They didn't take us seriously. They take us seriously now. We are preparing for government. I will be the next Prime Minister, and we will be the party of power. And we are now already the official party of opposition, etc. See, I did it.
Yeah, it's all complete nonsense.
That's it. Well, it's a damn good speech that was. That was a damn good speech by me.
You know, because it's a checklist of everything that he says all the time.
That's what he will say.
Yeah, that's what he will say. It's not what he should say.
Look, I gather, I respect your political allegiances, but
it's nothing to do with my allegiances.
But to be fair, allow Reform UK their moment in the sun. You know, they have had a pretty good 24 hours.
Yeah, pretty good. Not great.
Yeah, not great.
Not really.
Oh, come on.
I'm looking at the numbers, and the numbers don't really give you this. I'm sorry, the data. I'm sorry with your narratives to ruin it with facts.
They're here, Pete.
They're here.
Pete, they're here. The men in white coats. There's an ambulance outside.
For you, rather than me.
So.